Nukitsuke, which is the art of drawing and cutting with a sword in one motion. It's quite possibly one of the things that's going to get you bitten if you're not careful. So I thought I would do a video quickly just to back up a few of the things I may or may not have said. It's been that long ago that I can't remember exactly what I said in it. But I thought if I showed you something, then maybe it would help cement what I'd said, or maybe it'll just give you more questions, I don't know. Now, martial artists, they have a special type of belt called an obi, and when they put the sword in it, it's tied in such a way and it's thick enough that it's got a really good job of supporting the sword where you need it to be. As cutters, we may or may not have that luxury. I know that I don't. So what I do is very rudimentary. I just leave this belt buckle, this belt loop rather, out of the equation. It gives me more than enough room to have the saya put through it, and gives me flexibility so I can shift the saya around in the belt, because if you can't move it around in the belt, you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to end up just damaging the mouth of your saya or cutting through it and slicing your fingers. That's not what you want. I also, because I don't really use the sageo, there's no point in tying this to my belt because, well, again, I don't have the right belt anyway. I just use this thing. So what I do, I've also written an article on this. I think I found out after I'd written it, it's something called a chumusabi knot. It's essentially, I put one loop on this side, two on this, I doubled it over. If you check the site, it shows you how I did it. But I did this because there's one loop here. If there's a ton of loops here, then I can only move it so far back in the belt. I could theoretically take that off and give myself a bit more room, but there's no reason to. But if I had like 3 loops here and I was losing a couple of inches there, that would make it more awkward. But just thrust that through the belt, there we go. It should sit nicely. Because it doesn't have the same sort of support, you do kind of have to hold on to it, but that's okay. Now, what I find is rather than starting from a normal position and drawing back the sword and pushing back the saya, I do tend to push the saya forward a bit more. And then that gives me room to push the saya back rather than moving the sword forward. So as I do that, I lean forward into the cut, which is probably a bad habit, but I do, and I push the saya back. I bring the sword forward, and as it reaches here, I'm pushing the saya around like this. It's only then that I'm making my cut, whatever that would be. So if I am doing an over-the-top cut, then I angle the saya up, push it back, I twist it, and the cut comes out. Yeah? If you're doing an upwards cut, it's the same thing. It's a bit more tricky. You have to turn it round, and see I'm pinching the saya here, just shifting it around. It's that snap at the end that will make your cuts look, or your draw cuts look smooth. Okay? From the front, this looks a little like this. When you're cutting, I believe that from a martial arts point of view, the cut comes out more like this and ends just past where the person's face would be. But as cutters, we've got a target, we have to cut it. So we do tend to put a bit more flick in there. So as it comes out, there's a definite harder flick. Don't worry if when you're doing this to start with, your sword ends up all the way over here. As long as you have a damn good grip on that sword, it doesn't really matter. Make sure that the suka, as it comes out, is behind your wrist, so that you don't end up with the sword twisting out, and you're okay. You keep your elbow a titchy bit bent, and that's pretty much it. You will want to flick the sword a lot to start with, because as the sword comes out, you're going to be trying to use your body, and you're not going to feel like you're generating a lot of force there. you know, that's okay. That's something that will come with practice anyway. But like I said, shift side forward, lean into it if you want. This comes out, that comes out. Push this back, called sayabiki, I believe, and then draw the sword out. What people will do when they mess up is they will try and draw and cut the sword from there. So they'll just, and at this point it will start cutting into the saya, which is how you'll lose your hand. So make sure that before you start the cut, that happens. You release the tip of the sword from the saya by pulling the saya back around. That's why you need that flexibility on the belt. And that's pretty much it. This can be employed to any sort of draw cut. So straight over the top, the downwards cut, like I said, you just need to draw this back, and you should be fine. I hope that explained a few of the bits I was talking about. Draw cuts aren't my favourite thing. That's not because I don't like them, it's because they're difficult. So, and I don't train them half as much as I should, because there's less cutting applications. But it's something that you should at least be aware of. If you can knock down, or if you can do decent draw cuts, at least a few, it's definitely one to add to your repertoire. It is possible to lead into combinations, but certainly from a bottle cuts perspective anyway, where only 2 cuts are normally done, there's limited applications, but like I said, definitely one to try. Cheers.